Hi everybody. Mamit Chowdhury from Optimum Performance Solutions. Thank you for joining me today for a very special Star of the Universe interview. And I have a very special guest on with me today, Akash Vaghela. Hi Akash.
Hey, Mamit, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. This is really inspiring for me because you do my interviews. Now it's time for me to interview you.
Yeah, the law of reciprocity.
Yes,
As you
exactly.
people say.
Akash Vaghela is from RNT Fitness, an online fitness coaching company. And the reason I've got him on here is because I'm really inspired. I've known Akash for a few years now, and seeing his journey, I've seen some amazing, inspiring growth. And I wanted to get him on as a star of the universe that's making an impact on thousands of people's lives globally to share with us a little bit about his journey. So yeah, once again, thank you for being here. All right, Akash. So I know that this is a special week. Well, first of all, this interview is a little different because normally I'd have you with me on my couch. But of course, being on lockdown, so we're recording it through Zoom just so that I could make sure I could get this to the audience. My first question to you really is, what made you get into health and fitness in the first place? For all the things you could have chosen, why health and fitness?
Well, it's a good question because initially I was on the path to become a lawyer,
All
following
right.
my father's footsteps. So my father's a lawyer, and from the age of 10, 11, my ambition is always to follow in his footsteps. Everything I did at school was geared towards studying law at university. So I took the GCSEs that lined up towards it. I chose the A-levels that lined up towards it. I did my work experience at various law firms. I even went to India, where we have some family friends who are lawyers, and I did some work experience at their firms. I went to the Mumbai courts. I did a German exchange A-level when I was studying German, and I did a experience there in Germany. So
Wow.
I got everything that potentially you could do to be a lawyer. I was
Yeah.
heading down that trajectory. And then when I was about 16, 17, we had a school gym, and one of my best friends said to me, he started training. He said, "Why don't you come along?" And I said, "Nah, I don't want to get involved in the gym. Like, that's, what am I going to spend my lunchtimes doing that?" He's like, "No, just come along, just come along." And then, as you are, you're 16, 17, you're starting to, trying to look good for the girls, and all these things start coming into play. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to come along with you. And the rest is history, pretty much, because as soon as I got into the gym first time, I just got bitten by the bug. And I'd always played sports, and I'd played sports at a decent sort of level, but I'd never been obsessed with them like I was when I got into the gym. And I got into the gym, and I just became obsessed. And the guy I went to, his name was Bilal. He taught me the ropes, but what ended up happening is I started reading everything there was about health and fitness, and I spent all my free time learning about health and fitness. I was training every day. Any spare moment I had, I'd look up different things I could do. And then it got to a careers class in when I was 17, and I was sitting next to my friend Bilal, and we were meant to be doing our personal statements. So my personal statement was meant to be geared towards law. So I was meant to be writing that up, and he caught me. So my best mate said he caught me on a fitness website, and I was scrolling through like how to build your arms or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
And he said, Why are you bothering with this law stuff? Like, why don't you do something in health and fitness?" And I was like,
This is your friend that said it to you?
yeah. I was like, but there's no career in that. And he's like, why don't you have a look at it? So then I spent the rest of the day and the week looking through what could be done. And I saw there was a degree called sports science. And I thought, oh, this is right up my street. I had no idea what I was going to do afterwards, but I thought this sounds really like me. And then that summer, actually, I spent 2 weeks at the firm my dad worked at. And that was the nail in the coffin, because I went there and I was like, I don't want to spend time in a law firm. I can't do this. Like, this is not me. This is not what I want to do. So as the next school year started, I made the decision to do sports science. And I remember going home and I was like, went up to my dad and I was like, I'm not going to do law. I'm going to do sports science. And just like his face just dropped. Because back then, 10 years ago, there was nothing, like no one knew what this was. This wasn't really an industry
No.
as developed as it is now. So to make a choice to go outside of the traditional route and down a health and fitness coaching was something absurd. And my first thing my mum said to me was, "How are you going to pay the bills?" And that was something that stayed in my head for a long period of time. But that was how I kind of entered into the industry. And
What
then
was your dad's reaction? You said his jaw dropped, but how was it for him? Like, obviously all these years he's like, my son's going to be the one that follows my footsteps, and then suddenly you're like, forget about anything to do with law, I'm just going completely into a different industry. How was that for him, and what happened with your relationship or anything at the time?
Yeah, good question. And he was very quiet. I don't think he spoke to me for the rest of the day. And the funny thing is, I knew that reaction would come, so I told my mom first. I gauged her reaction, right? So her reaction was, "How are you going to pay the bills?" But she was still, receptive. Whereas my dad, I remember, like, he'd just come home. It was like 8:30. He used to come home really late from work, and I remember I just came up behind him. He was just having dinner. I just tapped him on the shoulder. "I got something to tell you," and I could just tell, like, it was just going to be a big drop. And yeah, he didn't really speak to me for that day. He just had to process it. But once they realized it was a science degree, and it wasn't just me doing star jumps in the field, which is what they initially thought, they came around to the idea, and ever since then they've been my biggest supporters.
Awesome, awesome. So you didn't actually have any other challenge apart from that moment with them then?
No, the biggest challenge was, just getting my parents around was the biggest thing. And once I got them on board, everything else kind of fell into place. I was lucky because my A levels, I chose biology as one of my A levels, and I wasn't really meant, like, if you look at my other ones, I chose like English, history, German, all very driven towards like that lawyer sort of setup. But I,
Yeah.
I kept biology in for some reason because I had that little interest. But at the time, I had no idea. But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have been able to do sports science at university. So that's really interesting.
Oh,
I
wow.
only thought about recently when someone asked me a similar question about, like, how did you even get to where you are now? And
Yeah.
it was
What
that
made you
pivotal
say?
moment when I was 17 that changed everything.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So tell me how that unfolded after that. You obviously did your sports science degree. Then what did it do? Because as you said rightly, 10 years ago, this was not really an industry. It was mainly around PT and that kind of thing. Obviously, a lot more's gone online, pre-COVID. So tell me what happened. How did you transform that part?
Yeah, so when I was at university, I started to help a lot of people for free. I actually did online coaching before I did PTing. So I
Oh,
was helping a lot of friends just online because when I went to university, my friends were in different cities. So I'd be sending them plans, having them check in, but I had no idea what it was. I had no idea I was doing coaching, online coaching. I just thought I was helping my mates out. But when I
yeah.
look back, I've actually saved all those programs. So I've got these programs I wrote like 10 years ago. I've got these emails that I used to send these people like 10 years ago. So I was doing a lot of this while there, but just for free, just helping them out, like just experimenting. They were my guinea pigs. Um, and then I was helping people at university. I was working the gym floor in the university sports center. And then after that, I started personal training in the city. That's where I really started to accelerate my learning. And it got to the point in the city where I was, as a personal trainer, you're guided by your client's diary. And it's very unsociable hours whereby it's very early in the morning, lunchtime, and then evening.
Mm,
So what I was starting to realize is people around me were starting to have families, and I was just seeing them exhausted, not seeing their children, not being able to be an active parent in their family. And I just realized that this is probably not sustainable if I want to do the same, unless I give up periods of my work. But I love my work, so how do I bring it to a more sustainable approach? How do I maintain what I love doing, but also have the important relationships in my life still flourish as well? Because when I was a personal trainer, I had no real life. Like, I was working 6 days a week in the city, long hours, and not that I don't work long hours now, but it's a different type. Like,
yeah.
you're getting on the first train in the morning at 5 a.m. and you're getting on the last train back at 10 p.m. It's those sorts of hours.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make a change, and the online element it just felt like the obvious route to go down. And knowing I could get the same results and impact online as I could in person, it was just an easy transition.
Yeah. How long did it take you to, or when did you make the decision of, like, how long were you a PT working in the city to then bringing it online? How many years difference was that?
Yeah, so I started in 2013 was when I started in the city. 2016 was when the idea sparked in my head. 2017 is when RNT set out, and then I was still doing some personal training for the first 6 months of RNT because of just generally, like, trying to create some cash flow.
Yeah.
So I stopped all personal training at the end of 2017, and I've been fully online since.
End of 2017. That's
Yeah,
great. Yeah, that's awesome. So you've been going for a good few years now.
yeah. So RNT's been going for over 3 years, and then I've been coaching now for, it was 10 years. 10 years this year, actually.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Happy 10-year anniversary.
Thank you. That's why the book was special to release this year, because it marked a lot of milestones all in one.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, speaking of milestones, I mean, obviously you must have had your milestones as you were going through. But what would you say in your journey has been the most challenging ones? Let's say milestones to reach, but even challenges as you've been going through your journey.
Yeah, good question. I'm going to focus more on like the last probably 3 years, because I'd say there's more obvious challenges in the last 3 years. After making that initial decision to change out the law path, I would say the hardest challenges were obviously setting up the business, taking that risk to leave a comfortable personal training job and set up an online business. That was definitely one of the hardest decisions. And then I would say after that, it was uh, the breaking up with my business partner at the end of quarter three of 2018, which I know I spoke to you a lot about at the time. That was probably one of the hardest moments, but also the most enlightening, because I realized the power of aligning priorities. And I know it's the other perfect person to tell this to.
Yeah.
Learn then that, if you're in business with someone, the importance of having a shared vision, but shared values and priorities. And if they're not shared or connected or aligned, it makes for a very difficult business partnership.
Yeah.
So that was a challenging time, but it taught me a lot about business that I don't think I would have learned had I not gone through it. Uh,
Yes.
so that was, and now even in anything I do, I always look at that and think about, what are my values in business and what I'm trying to create, and how does this person or this thing align to it, if they do, and if they don't, why don't they, or can something be connected, or etc.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, business relationship or any other relationship, really, doesn't it? It's like, unless you see the other individual fulfilling some priorities, there is no relationship, of course.
Exactly, yeah.
So going back to that challenge, because I've been through obviously the similar journey when we're like comfortable, we're in a comfortable kind of pay, and you said you had the unsociable hours. I worked long hours too, but again, like you, I loved the job I was in. So what was it for you that moment that you were like, yeah, I still want to do this online, but I want to get uncomfortable? What is it that helped you through getting uncomfortable to then actually get to launching RNT?
So while I was working as a personal trainer in the city, while I was working for someone, I'd always had that entrepreneurial spirit to want to start something. Like I'd done multiple little side hustles over the years, like whether it was clothing or whether it was an education center, or even like I nearly set up a dessert lounge, as crazy as that might sound.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
2014. Like I literally nearly signed on the lease of a place, and I was like, actually, this makes sense. Like, how can I moonlight as a dessert lounge owner, but be a personal trainer in the day? One way you can set up the business in a really good way. Like, have this waffle and come to me in the day.
Yeah, they come and train with me.
Uh,
Yes.
but that was actually because of my own journey at the time. I was struggling with my relationship with food quite badly. I went through my first bodybuilding competition. I got so lean, and I never knew what to expect after that. And I was frequenting dessert lounges all the time. And I remember being in one. I was with my mum, and I was like, so what do you think? What do you think the numbers are like of this place? Like what do you think the commercial model is? And I started doing all the numbers. Because she's very much very entrepreneurial, and we started talking numbers and business models and all this sort of stuff. The next thing you know, like I've got like a whole fully fledged like spreadsheet of the next 3-year
Wow.
forecast and all this stuff. So I always knew that I wanted to set something up. It was just waiting for the right thing, because the other ones that I had in mind, they just didn't connect to my deeper purpose and deeper reason to create impact. But when this idea came along, and I remember very vividly when I had the idea, it was very obvious that this was the path I wanted to take, because it aligned with what I'm so passionate about. It had a commercial element that made sense, and
Yeah.
it combined in a really good way. And that's very rare to find that. And when you do find it, you just got to pounce on it.
Yeah.
And yeah, then I just threw myself in. And am I working better hours now? Probably not. But so I don't know if I've solved that problem. But I get to have dinner at home. I don't have to take the train into work. And these were the things that I wanted to make sure were parts of my days, which I didn't have there. When I was a personal trainer, I was eating up Tupperware 5 times a day. I'd only have I'd only have one day of hot food, which is on a Sunday. The rest of the food was just cold and like in the Tupperware. These are the sorts of things I was like, I don't really want my lifestyle to be like this.
Yeah.
So those were the decisions that made it a lot easier for me to
Yeah.
jump.
Great. So I know probably interviews you've done, they've asked you about challenges, but I also want to put a little spin on it too, because as we know, we don't go through life without support and challenge. So what would you say has been your biggest supports in your journey as well?
Support in people? Is that what you're asking? Or
Yeah,
just,
people or circumstances you went through.
I would say like there's a couple of defining moments. There's one which you were there as well, the 2-year anniversary party. I think that was one of the most supportive events that I've been to. Because when I had that event, up till then, we'd always hosted events in the gym, and they're always technique based and gym based. Whereas this, I thought, you know what, let's hire a club in London and let's bring everyone into a club. And
Yeah.
I remember that distinct feeling of when I spoke on stage and I just saw all these people, all these like-minded, positive people here that we've impacted in some way. That was probably the most special moment of RNT so far. It was such a shame that we didn't get to do it this year because of COVID, but that was a real special moment because it made everything feel way more real than normal. And
I have tear of
I
inspiration you actually sharing, because I remember being there, and it's that moment you actually, yeah, when you stood on stage, I cried because
yeah,
it was being able to connect with you, to know, because I know what it's like to make an impact on someone's life. And I mean, that place was packed.
yeah, yeah.
Just packed. So to know that every single individual there, and there were a lot of people who tuned into videos and things after, because they were international. Obviously, you only had the UK base that was there, and some that had flown over, but you've got clients globally. So the event, was obviously done more so for London-based people.
Of
But
course, yeah, yeah. But I remember, yeah, I remember. And you said you took a video, and you sent it to me the next day, and it was one of the longer videos that I saw, which is really good. I'm glad you caught it. And I just remember watching it back and thinking, wow, this is really cool. Like this makes it all worth it. Like all the ups and downs you go through in business and in general, this makes it worth it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, like you always say, there's always an upside and there's always a downside.
Absolutely. Yeah, great.
Ruin
So
me. Yeah, and also just before you ask, I actually did your exercise you told me recently, before the book launch, and you text me. And most people would say, yeah, best of luck for the book launch. You were like, so just so you don't have to look at the downsides, do this exercise. And it was really useful because what I did is that morning is I did it because you said something like, instead of you stopping yourself from being happy because you're waiting for the downside, why don't you just be proactive about the downsides and write them down? And I thought
yeah,
that was really cool.
I think rather than you get humbled on the outside, humble yourself before you go into the launch. Yeah.
So I did all that. I was like, what would happen if this? What would happen if that? And because in my mind, I went into the launch and I was thinking, I can't get too excited about this because something's going to just crush me anyway. So let's just stay steady. So
Yeah.
that was really useful in doing that exercise. So thank you. I
Yeah.
forgot to mention that to you.
Welcome. Oh, that's all right. You're welcome. I think that's the thing. Like when we think we've done or achieved something, it's like when we think we've done it, you're on your way down. But when you know that going there, that journey that you actually took to, write that book, which nicely brings us on to that, is you've gone through a lot to write the book. So why don't you share with us what you've gone through? Because I think what people tend to see is they see the end product and think, oh, Akash is doing amazing. He's just, he's written this book, but they don't see what you've been through in terms of the challenges to get there. Because this is the product, that you have in your hands at the end. But it's like people say, the blood, sweat, and tears that go into it creates that, because you were fulfilling something that was so important to you. So share with us a few of the downsides that, or the challenges that you've gone through to get that done.
I mean, one of them is it goes back to 2014, which I mentioned earlier, and a big part of this book is the consolidation chapter. And I share my own struggles with consolidation and how in 2014, after I competed in bodybuilding, I was left in this massive high and I didn't know what to do afterwards. So I was extremely lean. I was in the best shape of my life. And I didn't know what to expect afterwards because your hormones are so all over the place when you get that lean, that bodybuilding lean. And I spent a year yo-yoing and struggling with food, and my relationship with food was really bad. And I was in the dessert lounge period. But it formed a big part of this book. And for me, that was a really difficult year. But without that, I wouldn't been able to write so explicitly and candidly about the book in the book. And we wouldn't have the methodology we do have because I place such an emphasis on consolidation. But it wouldn't be done if I hadn't been through my own experiences myself. So that's in itself is a challenge that comes from 6 years ago that's brought forward, and been a very big positive for this book, because it adds a human element to it that may otherwise be seen as, oh, this, how does he know? So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's that's a big challenge in itself that comes from a while ago. And then in the process of writing the book itself, what I found is, the closer I got to launch, the more challenges I was facing outside in the business itself. Like May was probably one of the most difficult months I've had, all stemming from inside the business. But it was almost like, as the book got more and more hyped, this was getting more and more, things were getting more and more crazy inside. So those have been the challenges in itself. But writing it in and of itself has been challenging. Like anyone who's written, I've got so much respect for people who've written books now, because it's no easy feat to. It's not the same as writing an article. It's
No.
a whole different animal. And I've pushed myself to the brink when writing this, and it pretty much literally is like, outside of the blood, there's definitely sweat and tears going into this,
Yeah.
into this creation. So yeah, there's always a downside, and yeah, it's great to hold it in your hands, but I look at it and I just see a lot of hours and a lot of emotional turmoil going into this.
Yeah. For the equal upsides of what you got outcome from it as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. So and I think you said it nicely when you look at writing the book, you've had a lot more respect for people who write the book. I know you and I, when we've had a conversation, we've done your priorities, like when we really got specific, you had a very high priority on writing.
Yeah.
So what was it that made you start the actual book? Because you've gone a few years with just focusing on the business, but where did the idea of, okay, now I want to write my own methodology into a book come from?
So, like I said, I've always had that priority of writing. I've always enjoyed writing
Yeah.
since I started in the industry. I started off at university where I was writing like scientific types of papers, which is very boring reads, but it's still writing. Then, as I got into personal training, I was writing a lot of articles, and then as I started RNT, I was putting out 1 or 2 articles a week, and I always had this enjoyment of getting into that flow state in the morning of just sitting there, put the same music on, have my same ritual, open the laptop, put that Chopin nocturnes piano music, and I just zone out into this into the Word document for hour and a half to 2.5 hours. That's like the perfect sweet spot for me. And I'd always enjoyed that feeling. Always enjoyed putting out articles, and I always knew at the back of my mind I wanted to write a book one day. My goal was to write it before I turned 30, but I never had the right idea. I had a couple of ones I started, but I never pulled through again, because I was just waiting for that one that I really believed in, because I didn't want to put a book out there that I didn't believe in, and otherwise also felt forced. So when the 5 famous phases became formalized, and I'd really nailed that methodology, I thought this is the perfect one. And after I did a photo shoot in 2019, in September 2019, and as I was doing a cardio session, I remember vividly, I was walking, I was feeling like really low, and I just had this light bulb moment. I was like, my next challenge is going to be the book. Like I waited all this time. I was like, Q4 2019, the book. Like, because this was September, and then October I started the book. And
Wow.
literally, it came like that. It came end of August. I had the idea. I remember writing in my journal. I looked at it around the time of publication. I was like, it's time to start writing the book. And it was very bizarre, right? And then as soon as the shoot happened, I went to America, came back, and got started.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really cool. I think that you and I have discussed this as well. Like, I'm pretty inspired that you wrote the book too. I want to do that. I've been co-authors on a few books, but yeah, very different when you write it for yourself, which is.
I think you should. I think you've got a great methodology. You've got great principles. You've got your own ideas. You formalize it all into one place.
Yeah.
What, more than anything, this book has been so good at just formalizing your ideas and downloading your brain. Because you probably have stuff which is like a little bit there, a little bit there. You've got a video there, an article there. You've got a social media post there, and everything's a bit everywhere. If you want to say to someone, go and read my stuff, you send them to like 50 different links. Whereas now you can just be like, here's my book.
Here's my book. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's been the best part of it for me personally, is just like having everything in one place where I can just be like, okay, you want to know about what we do? Yeah, just go buy this book. Whereas before it was like, well, here's an article on this, here's an article on that. This is checking a couple of podcasts out. That, as the writer, that's been the biggest benefit for me, just formalizing it all in one place. So I'd encourage anyone who's got any methodologies that are unique to them, any ideas, if you're a thought leader, I think you've got, it's almost your duty to write a book.
Yeah, absolutely. I know when we write content, right, we get I've heard the sayings like, don't be so selfish and keep it inside you, write the book and or write content, etc. So
Well, I was
I'll get you to coach me through that instead now, Akash. Yeah, you can be my coach for that.
I was on this creators workshop this year. It was run by Seth Godin,
Yes.
and he said the difference between amateurs and hacks and professionals in the creative space is that the amateurs and hacks, they just write or they create for themselves. For the professionals, create for the people they want to inspire change in. If you think about what we do for a living and what we do professionally, we inspire a change in other people. We create an impact in other people. So this is just another way of doing it.
Yeah.
In a different style, in a different medium, but in a succinct manner where everything can be placed into one piece.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. I love it.
The GPS manual.
I love it. You got a title for my book too already. I love
Something
it.
like that.
I love it. So, I mean, okay. So, let me just first of all, I'd love for you to tell people. Obviously, I'm showing it. So it's transform your body, transform your life. I was pretty inspired to. I made a little video when I got it because it really was a special book that I was opening up. So I've just started to read it as well because I only got it I think yesterday or the day before. But where can people buy it? I know you've had the challenge of not being enough books, which is great because that I really saw as a balance for all the people that were buying your book. But where can they buy it? What can they expect when they read it? A couple of things about the book, that would be great.
Sure, yeah. So the best place to go is Amazon, amazon.com.co.uk.au, wherever you are in the world. Amazon's your best bet. It's on Kindle and paperback at the moment. It will be on Audible at the end of summer. I'm in the studios in 3 weeks' time, which would be pretty cool.
You're reading it?
Yeah, I'm reading it. Yeah.
Oh,
So
cool.
I'm looking forward to that actually, because I've done the podcast. I think it'll feel natural to do the book as well. But it's 8 hours of reading for 2 days.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. But yes, it's on paperback and Kindle on Amazon, anywhere in the world. So that's the best place to get it. And with regards to what to expect, it's so while it's in the health and fitness industry, there's no diet plan in this. There's no training plan in this. There's no macros. There's no calories. There's no guidelines. If you're looking for anything like that, don't read this book. What this book is about is how to get into shape, but then stay there and continue to improve. Because getting into shape is easy in relative terms, but learning how to stay there requires 3 things. It requires a change in identity, requires a change in behavior, and requires a change in mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you go from, let's say, 80 to 60 kilos, you have to become a different person to then stay 60 kilos. Otherwise, what will happen is you go from 80 to 60, your mind is still thinking like an 80 kilo person. And you'll quickly revert back to your old behaviors and identity. So you have to take on a new identity, behavior, and mindset. And this book teaches you how to bridge that gap and go from getting into the shape of your life and then staying there. And then all the benefits and the journey you go through in making that bridge. And then the way we do that is through 5 phases. Which is our unique methodology that we've fleshed out.
And those 5 phases are outlined in this book because that's what your methodology is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you named it Transform Your Body, Transform Your Life. My first question is, where did the title come from?
Yeah.
And then my second question is, what's the importance of even transforming your body?
Yeah, okay. So the title came, so initially, this was actually one of the hardest bits to get the title. So when I sent the drafts and the test readers and even my first manuscript submission, I still don't have a title on it. I still just called it the RNT Transformation Manual because I didn't know what else to call it. But I knew that wasn't it. And then I got into the call with my publisher and I was like, I want the word transform in there. But I don't know what it should be. And we just kind of played around with words like transform your body. Then I was like, the physical is the vehicle. That's what we always talk about. The physical is the vehicle. I was like, that sounds cool, but it's too abstract. It doesn't make sense. Like, it's not obvious unless you know what that means. Mm. And I was like, well, what does the physical is the vehicle means? It means, okay, you master your body and through that, use it as a vehicle for the greater good in your life, whether it's your career, your relationships, your mindset, etc. Okay, well, so that means you transform your body, you'll transform your life because the vehicle is there, and that's where the title came from. Because if you go through the 5 phases, and if you make that change between getting into shape and then staying in shape, you will use everything you learn as a vehicle for the greater good in the rest of your life. Whether it's structure, whether it's routine, whether it's confidence, whether it's self-esteem, whatever it may be, there's so much you'll gain through the journey of mastering your body that you can transfer into other areas of life, and by default, that will improve your life. So that was the story behind the title. It encapsulates the mission that we're on at RNT in a very succinct manner. So
Yeah, I think you kind of answered the next question, which is the whole importance of transforming your body. And in fact, let me just read this to you, because just before I came on here to interview you, I came across this by Sri Ravi Shankar.
okay.
And I'd love to read it to you and then get your view on it. Just a little share here. It says, who is your life partner? Mom, dad, wife, son, husband, daughter, friends? Not at all. Your real life partner is your body. Once your body stops responding, no one is with you. You and your body stay together from birth till death. What you do to your body is your responsibility, and that will come back to you. The more you care for your body, the more your body will care for you. What you eat, what you do for being fit, how you will deal with stress, how much rest you give to it will decide how your body is going to respond. Remember, your body is the only permanent address where you live. Your body is your asset, liability, which no one else can share. Your body is your responsibility because you are the real life partner. Be fit, take care of yourself. Money comes and goes. Relatives and friends are not permanent. No, remember, no one can help your body other than you. I thought that was perfect for me to just, I literally was, scrolling through things and was reading a few things on Google. And I was like, I just came across it. I was like, how perfect just before I interview you, right? Because I think he's kind of captured also what you're saying, but I love the way that you're saying is also transform your body, transform your life, which is kind of what you're saying is the only thing you have. But what are your thoughts on what I've just shared?
I think it's absolutely spot on. I think self-care is the most important thing we should all be worrying about. Uh, and if it's not an important priority in your life, you need to find a way to link it to your most important priority in your life, because without self-care and without your physical body, you can't do anything. It's the foundation. Like, if you take care of your physical foundation, everything else can happen. We always talk about linking physical self-care to whether it's your career, your relationships, and other areas, and finding that connection. Because if you don't value your body and you don't value your self-care, it will come back and bite you. As cliche as that might sound, it will come back and bite you, and it will force you to stop if you don't stop and take care of it. So, now, no matter how busy I get with work or whatever it might be happening, I'll always tick the transformation checklist I talk about. I'll always train, drink my water, eat quality food, sleep 7-8 hours a night, and take 10,000 steps a day. Because if I don't do that, I won't be able to perform my best in my career, in my work, in my creativity, in my relationships, and I won't feel good. And without that foundation, you can't do anything. So it's critical that if people want to excel in other areas, that they place self-care as a high priority. And if they say they're too busy, then think about what are you too busy with? And if it's your work, then think, okay, how do you connect the two together? And this is where you're an expert in this, but being able to link the two is critical.
Yeah, brilliant. You've naturally just answered my next question, because I was going to ask you, like, based on what you're teaching, how do you then, you're a business owner, and then you've got all these other things that you're saying to everybody, these are the things that you take care of. How much are you able to take care of it? And interestingly, like, so when you don't take care of those areas, like your sleep, your steps, your diet, your training, like, what's the kind of feedback you have? How does it get you back to doing that? Because clearly that's a priority too, but then so is your business. So
I had the exact thing happen to me. In February 2019, I collapsed twice in one morning. And why? Because I put self-care as a low priority. And this is me as a health and fitness business owner. All I was caring about was my business. I was working all hours of the day. I remember my average steps for January 2019 was 1,000 a day. because I work from home, I was at 1,000. So there was no purposeful walking in the day.
Yeah.
I was training like 2-3 times a week, if that. I always train, but it was like 2-3 times a week training. My nutrition was like very, very hit and miss. I was probably not eating enough. I was sleeping 5-6 hours a night. And what did my body do? It collapsed. It collapsed in the middle of the night. I got up to pee, and I collapsed, and then I collapsed again. And at the time I was very like keeping it very secret. And now I'm very open about it because it's the best example of what happens when you don't put self-care as a priority, because your body will tell you you have to stop. And I can't give you a better example than that, because like what more could it be than your body just like you're losing control?
Yeah.
And that was a massive wake-up call, because after that I was like, well, what do I need to do I still want to keep my business as my priority in my life, but it's not sustainable what I'm doing. I need to change something. And this is when I started thinking about bringing on a team, started bringing help on board. And the first thing I did really was just like, no, I need to set my self-care back to reset it. Because everyone, no matter how long you've been in this game for, you're always going to have those periods where you might slip up and you need that I call it a CTP reset. And I needed my own reset. And my reset was, I actually decided I was going to go all in and do a photo shoot, just because if I'm going to do a photo shoot, there's no way I can be slacking. And that was the best way to kind of spark things off, because I got a date in the diary, I've got a photo shoot, I have to hit everything and keep everything in the business going, because there's too much accountability not to. And ever since then, no matter how busy the business has got, I've always kept that as a priority, because I'm like, I don't want to experience that again. I ended up in hospital, I was going on a drip, all these things, and I was told I was chronically dehydrated, even though I wasn't. But my body went into stress, even though it wasn't from a lack of water. My body just went into complete stress mode.
Yeah.
And when your body's stressed, it depletes water and all sorts. And it was so chronically dehydrated, I needed a drip. And I was like, this can't be right.
Yeah.
So yeah, massive wake up call. And I always tell that story when people ask me, like, what's the importance of self-care as a business owner? It's like, well,
Yeah.
if you want to stay alive in your business, you need to do it.
Okay, so need to do what? How about you tell the viewers some tips on how they can actually, keep that as a priority in their life? Like you're saying, it's pretty much like it's saving their life. So what I don't know, 3, 4, 5, whatever tips you have to help them see the importance of that and what they can do?
So for most people who you listen to, they're probably very they're ambitious in their career, they want to push forwards, and it'll always come down to time, right? They'll always use that as the reason. So once you've identified the link between the priorities, I think it's then about looking at your structure, looking at your strategy, and you're looking at your systems. And the 3 things, I call them 3 S's, and I think this is the foundation. So you need to look at your structure in your day and create non-negotiables around that. So what are your non-negotiable training times? What are your non-negotiable meal times and food? I mean, you used a brilliant example, right? When I said to you, look, what about 1:30 p.m. on a podcast? You were like, no, I've got a non-negotiable lunch period with 1 and 2. And
That was so funny when we were trying to schedule it. I was like, I'm using Akash's stuff back on him because it had really become a non-negotiable. I'm like, nope, that's my.
My first response was going to be like, are you kidding me? And then I was like, actually, this is great because she's taken on board what I've said. And I was like, good for you. You're like, that's what you need to do. Just protect it. Because if you don't protect it, who will?
Yeah.
You just say, yeah, okay. Then it's like, well, now you've only got 15 minutes to eat. You're probably going to eat really quickly. Probably in a state of panic, and you just won't be able to enjoy the food. Won't be able to. Your digestion system will be stressed. And it's those little things that make a massive difference. It's creating non-negotiables around your training, your nutrition, your steps, your sleep, your water, and then it's about making it as easy as possible. So, what decisions can you automate? Most of us spend too long making menial decisions in the day. Do I eat chicken or turkey? Do I eat rice or sweet potato? Do I train at 3 p.m. or 4 p.m.? Do I wear my blue t-shirt to train, or should I wear my white t-shirt to train? Doesn't matter. Just pick one and automate it. Automate these menial decisions, and at the start of every week, you should know exactly what you're doing with your self-care practices. Then it's about setting yourself up for success with precursors. So if you know training and walking in the morning is difficult for you, okay, why don't you leave all your training clothes by your bedside table, or your running shoes as soon as you get out of the door, as soon as you get out of bed, so it's there for you. Or another precursor could be keeping your water bottle full with you every time you're doing something. So it's there, and you're going to drink your water. It's these things to make your life easier. So you're not having to expend a lot of mental energy and getting it done, because that's when people get tired and willpower gets depleted. Because willpower is really a myth. It's a renewable energy source every day, and every decision you make in the day, everything you do zaps that willpower tank. And if all you do is spend energy thinking about, should I train at 3 or 4 p.m. or should I eat chicken and turkey? By the time you get to the end of the day, you're gonna be like, I'm just gonna have a pizza. It's just easy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I mean, I'd love to share that, when I was initially doing the step stuff, I think I shared with you, like, I would find it hard to do steps, right? Because same like you, I'd average about 1,000 steps because the business was the priority, right? But and my dad used to walk, but he used to walk around 4 or 5 o'clock, and I was like, oh, I can't go in the middle of my day to do the walks with him, right? So instead, I was like, oh, Dad, if you go for a morning walk, like, it's out of your way and you can do all this. So it's almost like I was definitely trying to speak in his priorities to get him to go in the morning so I could go with him. And then that was obviously the link. Then he does Monday to Friday. I mean, my dad's 89 this year. And I think for a good, like, 25 years, he's never really missed a weekday to walk. Weekends are his days off. He says, Saturday, Sunday, I have my day off. But I was speaking to my coach and I said, great, now I'm walking Monday to Friday, but come Saturday, Sunday, I'm taking a step back as well because he's not going anymore. Until, like, I was like, okay, well, what else can I do that's on the walk that's also my priority? So now I use Saturday, Sundays to actually listen to some content or something that's going to help me in my coaching and teaching. But Monday to Friday, he and I go for a walk. It's my time with him. But now it's just that non-negotiable. Like, it's there. It's in my diary. But he also now, like, as a household as well, we sleep like early because I'm going, okay, it's bedtime now. Almost like little kids go bedtime. But because we all sleep early, we're all awake early, and it's just having such an impact on them, even though they're not on the program I am, just as a household. And, energy, I see them, my mum and dad both as well, they don't really nap as much during the day. And my dad just literally just yesterday says, I think I can eat the same food you eat, let's just try and make it easier and cook the same meals, so it was really interesting just to see some shifts. But I completely agree with you. I think those 3 S's. So just remind us of those 3 S's again, so that we can, anybody listening, watching, can make sure they have them down.
Yeah, identify your structure, have a strategy in place and how you're going to execute your checklist, and then what systems you're going to use to execute as well. So structure, strategy, and systems. Those are the 3 things.
And those 3 S's are in the book, right?
Yeah, they're in chapter 2. And one thing I was going to say to you, actually, when you said to me, why don't you do 2 p.m.? We're going back and forth on the thing. And I was like, oh, I got something at 3. I got something at 2:45. Do you know what it was?
Yeah, it was your coaching call, you said.
Yeah, but it's also my afternoon walk. So my afternoon walk is 2:45 to 3:30. But I do calls on there as well. But it's also my afternoon walk, and I'm always that I'm like related. So that's why today is 4 p.m. because, like, between 2, you said you gave me like 2, 3, 4, and I was like, no, I got my afternoon walk then.
Yeah.
But what I do during my walks, and this is something that might help people, is I do a lot of my coaching calls. I do voice notes. I do. So they only be like, I only reply to voice notes like at specific times because I go off my walk, I listen to them, and I reply then. Any phone calls, so I use that as that time to reconnect either with friends, or it's just like, it might be some business stuff. But again, it's connecting the priorities. Business and relationships are high priorities for mine. It makes it easier to then go for walks. I'm like, oh, I'm excited to go and speak to that person. It makes it easier to go, okay, because then your walk goes really quickly. It doesn't feel like a long walk. It just feels like, next thing you know, it's like it's an hour gone already.
I've done some of that sometimes, and well, Shiv, so I've had him on one of the calls, and that's like, beginning of my walk to the end of the walk, it's Shiv. It's like, maybe I should talk to you like every time I want to walk, Shiv, because I just did like however many steps just talking to you. So
I had a 65-minute walk with him once. I was like, oh, you're cutting into my time. It's good though, and I think we've done a call recently. We did a call once, and we did
a meeting on your walk.
2:45-3ish, right? But yeah, that's a really good way, I think. Walking meetings. So when walking meetings, walking calls, these are great ways to get a lot of steps in activity while also aligning with priority and also saving time. Like, I personally don't like being on the phone when I'm sitting on my couch or sitting on the desk. unless it's a Zoom or unless it's something like this, I'd rather be walking, just because it's more enjoyable. And
that's awesome. No, great. Well, Akash, I think it leaves us to say also, I mean, great. First of all, again, congratulations on the book. And I think I'd just love you to share also about your RNT program. I have seen personal results of being on there, and I'm definitely working towards my photo shoot next year too. So, and now I've said it on the interview, but please tell us a little bit about what is the RNT program, and how can people get involved and get on that?
Yeah, so we're a transformation coaching company. We do one-to-one coaching, and we help people. Ultimately, if you want to know more about the methodology and more about how we work, the best thing, honestly, is just to read the book. It's so cool to say that now, that you can read the book and everything's here. And we're the guides along the journey. We have the 5 phases of the RNT journey. And what we do as coaches is we hold you accountable to your checklist on a daily basis, but also guide you personally through the journey to achieve your transformation goals initially, and then help you unlock the vehicle inside of you to do something amazing in yourself. And that's how we come into play. And if you're interested in joining, the first step is take the scorecard, take this test. So we have a test. It's called the transformation scorecard test, and you can go to rntfitness.com/scorecard. It's a quick 5-10 minute test.
Say that again and a little bit slower.
rntfitness.com/scorecard. And it's a free 30 question, 10-minute test, yes or no answers. And it'll basically tell you how primed you are for your own transformation. So yeah, take the test, see how you score. You get a personalized report as well. So it's a cool way to kind of understand what we do and see where you are on the spectrum of transformation. And then get the book.
Brilliant. And it's doing really well on Amazon though, I see. So awesome job there. So much so they've run out of copies.
Yeah, they're slow dispatching orders, so that's great.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, any last words you'd like to leave the viewers with in terms of your journey, any last words of advice and wisdom?
No, thank you for having me. Main advice I'm going to give is actually just making sure that you make self-care a priority, and just to be the perfect link between us on this podcast is use Man Meets methodology to help you make that link. If you're a follower of Man Meets principles, she's got all the tools you need to make that link between something you want to do and something you should do. Is that the right thing to say?
Yeah, what you think you should do. Yeah.
No, thank you for all your teachings and work, because it's truly inspiring and life changing. And you've taught me a lot about life and living and being able to stay balanced. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank you and continue to do your own continue on your own journey and publish your own book, because I want to read it.
Thank you, Akash. That really does mean a lot. Thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you. And once again, just leaving you with Akash's website. It's www.rntfitness.com. Thank you.